Rogue's FM single stack functional trainer is exactly what you'd expect from them. Overbuilt American quality featuring an insane level of engineering and polish. And most importantly, it's incredibly versatile. My Rogue rack now has a functional trainer integrated into it. I can do lat pull downs or any number of high pull exercises as well as low rows or whatever I want. There's not a whole lot I can't do with it. Rogue's FM is fantastic, even if the name is a bit lacking. It's their answer to Reps Athena and Aries, so we'll make some comparisons there, but there's also a few very important things I'd look out for if you're thinking of getting one, because there are a ton of ways to build this thing and reasons why you may or may not want certain options. For example, while I've used both the selectorized and plate-loaded versions, I got the plate-loaded one not only to save some money, but also because Rogue will be offering a version of the Rhino belt squat that can fit into this. We'll be reviewing that, and we've already purchased an FM twin stack for a review, so subscribe for that upcoming content, or just subscribe because I bought this and those other items myself, and it'll make me feel better about spending thousands of dollars on videos that will lose money. Nobody said I was a good businessman, but you can prolong my YouTube career by using my affiliate links, which are in the description. That is literally how I funded all these videos, making you the reason I'm still able to do this. So thank you. The FM single stack can be configured a lot of different ways. It's not just limited to a 6-post like I've got. There's more compact half-rack setups. If you don't have Rogue's monster rack, like this one, that's their 3-inch by 3-inch rack with 1-inch holes in hardware, you can get a nearly identical setup on the less expensive Monster Light rack, Rogue's 3x3 rack with 5/8 holes in hardware. You can choose from a plate-loaded version or throw a 250 or 300-pound stack on. There's different rack height and depth options to choose from, and Rogue has an embarrassment of riches when it comes to finish options. You can even save yourself $300 and not get the shrouds. And if I could do it all again, I'd probably save the money. They do give it a much cleaner look and will help keep your kids' hands away from moving parts, and I love that they provide extra storage, but something like Bells of Steel's utility hooks on the inside of your uprights is a lot cheaper, even if not as refined a solution. They also bump out about 3.5 inches, so with the included spacers, that robs your weight horns of some real estate. Luckily, it's not a problem for me because the comments tell me I don't lift, and I'm still able to get 4 deep boys on here, but with thinner plates, I could store more weight. With this starting at just under $2,000 shipped for the plate-loaded FML, which is an acronym Rogue probably should have thought through better. Feel free to Google that one if you don't get it. But in this case, the F stands for the functional trainer add-on, M for monster, and L for light. The FM goes up to about $3 grand for a fully decked out 6-post configuration, which is priced alarmingly close to Reps Aries, which is impressive when you think about the fact that Rogue is made in the US and Reps imported. Actually, this configuration right here is a good amount cheaper with that free Rogue shipping. That's not an accident on Rogue's part. They're taking a shot at Rep here, and I'm all for it. With them battling it out, we as consumers are the real winners. Now, you could argue the Aries and this aren't identical machines, and you'd be right. The single stack has one weight source, the Aries too. But functionally, they're pretty much doing the same things. The Aries does have true unilateral capabilities on the low row and lat pull down with the 2 pull points on each controlling separate stacks, but I found a pretty clever solution to that on the single stack. I switch hands. And I actually prefer the single attachment point of this versus fiddling with the banana connector on the Aries. Listen, there's always trade-offs and you have to decide what's right for your space and style of training. If dual weight stacks are important to you, our Rogue twin stack review will be coming out soon. And if you want us to do a big in-depth comparison video between Rogues and Reps options, then just let us know. The first thing you'd notice on the FM is it has Rogue written all over it. I don't mean literally, well, actually it does have Rogue cut into all the shrouds, but what I mean is this is the build quality we talk about when we mention over-the-top made in America quality. This is the epitome of it. The attention to detail and touches on the FM are incredible. It may very well be the nicest thing I've ever seen from Rogue. Let's make a few comparisons, and we'll start with the trolleys because they really set the tone for this entire thing. These are what I'd expect to see on a commercial quality unit, not in my home gym. Look at this. We've got dual stainless steel handles. The trolley moves on a set of 4 rollers that make it slide smoothly up and down the uprights. Even the pulley bracket is covered in UHMW, so nothing can scratch it. Rogue is using aluminum pulleys with high quality bearings throughout, so the pull on this from any point is very smooth. Up against reps Adonis, Athena, or Aries, doesn't really matter, they're all basically using the same thing. You'll see the obvious size difference, proving that in America, we don't only supersize our food, but it's the finer points that really stick out, like Rogue using rollers versus Rep sliding on a plastic liner. The downside of that size is it raises the lowest pull point a little bit higher off the ground, which affects things like weighted dips, as you'll have to mount your dip station up higher. Outside of that, I haven't found many issues, and I did spend a while searching. Now, those high-end touches don't just stop with the trolleys. Check out the shrouds on the top and bottom that cover the cables so they're not exposed, while still allowing for space for things like my Darko barbell anchor or for banded work. It's a polished design that doesn't sacrifice functionality. But all those things are just scratching the surface of what Rogue's done to this. The attachments Rogue is including are exceptional, and they've got a big advantage over the competition there too. As an example, let's look at Rogue's and Rep's lat pull-down bars. At first glance, they look similar, and they are because they're both about 48 inches long and fully knurled, but Rogue's is built from stainless steel versus Rep being steel with a hard chrome finish. That means Rogue's is much more expensive to manufacture, and it results in their bar having a cleaner grip and being more resistant to corrosion. It's honestly better than what I've used in commercial gyms. With the D handles, it's a similar story. I've been recommending Rogue's handles for years because I've owned at least a dozen different handles, and these are what I always go back to. They rotate smoothly, the nylon strap doesn't dig into your arms, and they're machined to the same quality standards as Rogue's bars and then finished in a black Cerakote. Yeah, I'd like it if they offered a thicker grip option because at 25 millimeters, some people may find them a little bit thin, but regardless, they're still my favorite. And let's not forget the grip triangle. That thing is a tank, but these aren't attachments we often recommend because when bought separately, they're very hard to justify at almost $400 shipped. Included with the FM though, they're phenomenal. That build quality and attention to detail extends to the packaging and assembly as well. Look at how they packed the hardware in the most Rogue way possible, all organized on a single 3x3 upright. They also use a series of numbered and colored stickers to show you how to route the cables. I didn't even read the directions on how to put the cables in. Now, I should have. Don't be like me, I messed up a lot, but that's not on Rogue. They've made an assembly video and their written instructions are good too. My best talent is just that I'm an idiot. That being said, Rogue just set the standard on assembly with the FM series, as they've done everything they can to make it as smooth and as painless as possible. Now, it is still an involved build and took us about 5 hours, but they made it much more straightforward than other builds I've done like this. Now, none of the things we've talked about so far matter if it doesn't still work well as a rack while integrating in the functional trainer, lat pull down, and low row. So let's break all those down and I'll show you where you may run into some issues. The FM single stack is actually a really clever design on Rogue's part because you've got a single weight source controlling all of these pull points. There are pros and cons to that though. For a plate-loaded device, loading this up is simple and quick because I've only got 2 weight horns to manage. Imagine you tried that same thing on Rep's plate-loaded Athena with their plate-loaded lat low. Okay, yeah, it's a bit of a silly idea, but I have seen it done. Of course, opting for a selectorized version of this makes adjusting the increments even easier than you're just moving a single pin. So how does Rogue manage all these pull points off one weight stack? Let me explain. The FM is using a 1-to-1 pulley ratio on the lat pull down and low row, but kind of a hybrid 2-to-1 system on the functional trainer, since Rogue isn't doing an all-in-one cable system like everyone else does. Let's cover the 1-to-1 systems first. The high and low pull points are 1-to-1, meaning for every inch you pull, that stack moves an inch. If you put 200 pounds on that stack, you're pulling all 200 of it. Technically, the plate-loaded Rhino trolley weighs 25 pounds. So the starting weight of this version on the lat and low row is 25 pounds, but you get the idea. The selectorized stack starts at 20 pounds and has 10-pound weight increments for the lat and low row. It also has 2 sets of stickers, so you always know what increment you've picked for the lat pull down and low row versus the functional trainer. So if you hate plate math, that one might be the better choice. The lat pull down works great on this. At 6 foot tall, I've got plenty of cable travel. I hold myself down using dual leg rollers, but Rogue does have the multi-use roller for both their Monster and Monster Light racks. I can pull straight down, I'm not cramped up against anything, and I have plenty of space to move and adjust, which means I can cheat like no one's watching. The low row is very good as well. It's smooth, and since it's using the same 1-to-1 pulley system, you can really load it up heavy. Actually, there's no weight capacity on this. That's not missing information on Rogue's part. It's them telling us we won't max it out. I tried and looked like an absolute idiot trying to get it to move with over 1,000 pounds and room to spare on the 16-inch weight horns. These things are huge. They're the weight horns she tells you not to worry about. The selectorized version comes in both a 250-pound or 300-pound stack variation, and there's some important things we have to talk about concerning those stacks, but we'll cover that when we get to the functional trainer. Let's get back to the low row. The built-in handle makes the big beefy footplate easy to adjust, and I found it works comfortably whether you're sitting on the ground or even when on a decline bench, which again shows how much cable you have to work with on the 1-to-1 systems. And I don't think cable travel will be an issue with any version of the FM, at least with the 1-to-1 pull points. Where the cables may be an issue is with the functional trainer, depending on which version of the single stack you get. Here's what I mean. This works off what I'd call a hybrid 2-to-1 pulley ratio, meaning if you pull one side, you're lifting half the weight, but have twice the cable to work with. I'm probably not even on screen anymore. Whee! Now that's important in a functional trainer where you want a low starting weight. With the plate-loaded model, the trolley weighs 25 pounds. So cut that in half, and you've got a 12.5-pound starting weight and can literally load any weight increment you want because they're your plates, so micro load to your heart's content. The selectorized version starts at 10 pounds and has 5-pound increments. But what about when you use both hands at once with a single weight source? It's now back to a 1-to-1 ratio, and it actually works much better than I'd have thought. So I've loaded this with 10s on each side, so 45 pounds total. This arm feels 22.5 pounds, and this arm feels 22.5 pounds, and together they both pull smoothly, and I feel equal resistance in each arm and have 45 pounds of total resistance off the one stack. I can even do unilateral movements without issue. The only issues I foresee on this are, one, with a single weight source. You can't have 2 people using this at once because they'd be pulling the same weight stack. And 2, when using both sides and it being a 1-to-1 pulley ratio, you have half the cable to work with. I've got a 90-inch tall rack and haven't had issues. I can do cable rear delt flies or any number of exercises that use a lot of cable, and although I sometimes need to be careful with how I position myself, I haven't maxed it out. With a weight stack though, you might, and that's because the stack is taller than the plate-loaded trolley, so you'll have less space to work with, resulting in about a foot less cable travel with the 250-pound stack and 17 inches less with the 300-pound. This isn't something Rogue's hiding. They've got tables in their listings that show you all the specs. differences between versions, and cable lengths depending on your configuration. From my testing on Fringe's Dane rack with its 1-to-1 pulley ratios, we maxed out the cables on certain exercises, and I foresee that being an issue with Rogue's weight stack as well. But if you've got the ceiling height for a 100-inch tall rack, you'll gain 10 inches of cable to work with. And when we tested Rogue's 100-inch rack with the 300-pound stack at Home Gym Con, we didn't run into any issues. Another thing you may need to look out for is the footprint. Much like your favorite YouTube review channel, this has a fairly large backside since Rogue's designed it to work with the Rhino belt squat. The drop-in Rhino integrates into the plate-loaded FM and attaches to the back of the rack. So you need about 30 inches to make room for the Rhino and so you can comfortably load 45s. If you opt for a weight stack, it's about 5 inches shorter but no longer works with the Rhino. If the footprint and cable travel are a big concern of yours, the twin stack solves both of those and it's built similarly, but there's obviously quite a few differences and reasons you may want one over the other. So let me know if you want to see a single and twin stack comparison video, because if the twin is anything like this, it'll end up being another exceptional piece from Rogue. If this fits what you're trying to do with your space, I think it's a great purchase. You know what? Just feed the algorithm and spam the comments with every possible comparison video you can come up with, and I'll do my best to make them happen, because there are quite a few options out there. Thank you for using our links so we can keep this channel going, and let me know what I missed. Thanks to our Patreons, and thanks for watching.